Welcome to Single Moms Unfolded. I'm Kelly Viera, your host, and I'm super excited you took the time to spend with us today. This is a podcast by a single mom for single moms to help single moms. Right? This is our safe space to grow, connect, and learn together. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome to Single Moms Unfolded. Today we are lucky to have Ioana Cozarescu Kind. Welcome. How are you today?
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for having me. I'm great. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Let's get right in. So tell us, what is your definition of a single mom?
A single mom is a parent, first and foremost, who does a lot of the caregiving responsibilities around raising a kid, biological or not, mostly alone. And you can say she does it mostly alone for a period of time, like 2 weeks, or for a long period of time, like years. So we have a lot of space in between, but it's a parent who mostly has to take care of their kids alone.
Okay. So do you think there's any misconceptions with single moms?
Oh, a bunch of them. But I think it starts with misconceptions about motherhood, to be honest, in the first place. So I've been happily married for almost 10 years, and I had my kids in my 20s, mid-20s and 20s. And even then I was like, oh, wait a second, this is harder than I thought. And I was in a loving relationship. We had jobs, stable jobs. We were healthy, young, active adults who wanted kids. And even then I said, oh, this is a lot for just a couple with no support of grandparents living around the corner. So we're both, not born in the country where we are. So even then I was like, oh, that's a lot. And I don't hear a lot of talk about not only how the hardships are, about solutions. I did not hear a lot of talk about solutions. And then after my husband passed away, my kids were really, really young. My son was 1 year old and my daughter 3 years old. And single parenthood, then motherhood especially, hit me like a brick. I was like, and being a social worker, I learned that a lot of behavioral problems, kids of single moms, a lot of criminality, kids of single moms. So somehow 10 years ago or 11 years ago, when I became a single mom as a social worker, I was like, oh my God, this is done for my kids. It's going to be so many problems. I'm not going to be able to handle it alone. And they're going to have it so much harder. And so it was a really, really, on top of grief, this misconception around being a single parent, and especially a single mom, really definitely made it harder.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you have 2 kids?
Yeah.
And how old are your kids?
So now they are 11 and 14. So we've been on this journey as a small family for 11 years.
11 years.
10, almost.
Okay. So you like an old pro at this.
You know, with parenthood, when you feel like you reached a level of, oh, I know how to do it, and something happens, and you're like, next
time the whole world blows up, right? And you have to relearn how to do everything, right?
I think not everything. So I do think with time and readjusting how you parent, you do not start at zero at that crushing moment of solitude of the beginning. I do think that it's not the same. You can never start at the beginning in the same place. But you have to have a really growth mindset and learning mindset. So you're never like a pro at things. You really have to adjust and say, okay, what does this next phase bring? How can we like tackle it? What do we need to learn to address it? And that's valued for all parents. You know, everyone needs to adjust as they go. But when you're parenting alone, then you have all these learning and backsets and fails also that you also you do them alone, and you don't have cheerleaders on any side of you sometimes. So that adds a level of toughness to this game.
Right. So when you first found out you were going to be a single mom and you were scared and you didn't think you could figure it all out, so what was your biggest struggle?
I mean, honestly, the struggle that I was thinking back then, that's going to be my struggle. I didn't even know the biggest struggle that's actually going to be. So I thought when I was 29 when my husband passed away, and I thought that the biggest struggle will be getting my kids alone through emotional big challenges, like not having, like raising them alone without someone to say, okay, I'm tired. Can you pick the pace? I need to go and lay down. Or I thought the biggest challenge would be, when my parents will pass away, or if something would happen to me and nobody would be there. So these were my biggest fears. And I actually went through all of this in the last 10 years. So my father passed away of cancer too. I had an emergency operation for my eyes that out of nowhere I had to be in the hospital and operate, and someone had to take care of my kids. So I had actually, like, this did occur, all these situations. But I did deal with everything that went on my plate. So looking back, I didn't realize that the biggest challenge will actually be not having time off. I didn't even realize that is going to be, it was not even on my map, as really a emotional, psychological, also financial challenge to never have time off to think about the big picture, but just solving the next problem like a firefighter mode.
Yes. Being reactive to everything that happens. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a big deal, right? Because we try to, okay, how am I going to make this work? You don't really have time to think of, how am I going to make it all work? It's like, okay, well, how am I going to get groceries this week? Or how am I going to get somebody to school and I have a meeting at the same time? So, I guess it's like little bite-sized pieces. So what did you have to learn? What was the thing that you learned that stands out the most?
I mean, the first thing that comes right off to my mind is that time doesn't heal any wounds, and that you cannot just like sit it out, and that you need to, if you really want to come back to a place of thriving and happiness, you need to actively make that happen. It's not gonna happen organically if you went through this kind of traumatic big events, and divorcing is another one, because it's a prolonged period of time of stress added on. Losing kids, losing partner, losing jobs, even these are all traumatic. Can be very, very traumatic, especially when you don't have enough resources to deal with it. So you are in a state of non-stop fight and reactiveness over a longer period of time. So we make good things happen. That the bad things will happen anyway without doing of yours, but the good things, you need to actively make them happen. And this realization, I kind of had it after 4 or 5 years of being on this ride and trying to do alone what we did together, and burning out. So I had a major depressive episode 5 years after he passed. So I was like, I'm out. I'm a squeezed level. I do not know where to take the energy. My son was 5, my daughter was 7. They were still so young, and I'm like, I gave it my all, and I do not see any new partnership that heals, or like someone stepping up. I do not see a career change that gives me a more impact financially. I'm grinding and I'm doing so much, and I'm not seeing results. And I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It just looks like really, really tough. And I was out.
I feel like that's really common, right? Especially, we try to take everything on and like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And we're going crazy. And then one day you're just like, ugh. I don't want to live like this forever. If it's just me, I can't go on this way. And I think that's a big deal. So how did you learn to get through these hard days where you were just like,
So one thing that I used to tell myself after, it was like, and even when my babies, like my kids were really little, I said, time is on my side. Like every second that passes, it's going to be, some kids will grow. It's going to be easier. So time is on my side. It's just to have at least this ally of saying, time helps me. In the deaths of depression, this was not helpful because I felt like time just keeps me, it does not help, or I didn't feel this light at the end of the tunnel. And that is when I realized, okay, I cannot do it the way, or all my coping strategies, I need to shift, I need to reinvent, I need to do something different.
mm-hmm.
And it's there where I had to actually accept that I cannot continue my career the way I even thought. And I did a master's. I had a master's degree in management. I did this all alone, and still I realized, no, it's this path is like it's not ours anymore. I cannot do it on this path. But what I didn't know, or the biggest learning afterwards, is that there are so many ways of having a great life, and being happily married with your partner and your small kids are not the only one.
Right.
This was the biggest work, or say, how can I have an amazing life with them as a single mom? So also there is nobody else. I tried dating. It was really, I was 30 years old, 32, and they wanted kids. I could date, but they wanted kids of their own. And I was like, oh, I'm done with having my own
Right.
kids. And it did not solve. Like nobody came in and just, solved it. So I said, okay, I have to solve it myself. I cannot wait longer. I have to. So this was a question of how can I have an amazing life with them, just the way we are, me and them. And
I love that. I love that because so many single moms, they get out of one relationship and they feel like to have an amazing life, they need that other person. But I feel like if you're not complete by yourself, it can't work.
Sometimes it happened, Carrie, and I don't want to, it would have really been very helpful. Like there is no question around it. It would have helped to have someone to talk, or like a good relationship, it is really helpful. It is easier to have a partner. But I said, okay, well, if I cannot create this out of nothing, I don't see it. I cannot, I cannot stay in this waiting loop of maybe 3 years from now, maybe 5 years from this.
Mm-hmm.
Like too long of a time to just living in a waiting kind of situation. I said, well, okay, I need to, how can I do this like how we are right now? And also kind of there, I knew cognitively that every situation has pros and cons.
Yeah.
But I did not. With grief, you don't see the pros. Like with grief, you're so sad that you don't have this amazing stuff you had anymore, that you don't see the advantages of your new situation. It's like impossible or like unfathomable that there are advantages to a new situation. And so after, in my burnout or in that part, I was like, okay, so I know that everything has, so what are the good stuff? Like, let me look at what might be some of the advantages that I have being a single mom. And that was very scary to go there because also we're much more used to talk about the hardships, and I want to see solutions. I want to see people who thrive and love being a single parent. And how do they do this? Like how much help do they have? Where do they get, like what mindset do they have? All of this. And I started to study or look for people, moms especially, who said, I'm having a great life with my kids alone. But no, so this was the beginning of the change, to say, and I didn't find that many, honestly. I did not find that many voices online. I find a lot of people, even now, regretting motherhood, married or not married, and so on. But this is why I was so happy to come on your podcast on, around single moms, and to talk more, even if it's scary and a bit taboo, about the advantages of being a single parent that are possibly there, and dare to talk about that. Yeah. And
yeah, I think we forget that if we're in that space, especially if you lose somebody, you felt like, well, I lost my happy ending and now I just have to, make do instead of, okay, well, some people divorce, like when I divorced, I was like, okay, this is the right decision. Yeah, it's not ideal what I wanted, but I felt like a weight was lifted. So it's a different mentality. So it was a little easier for me, like, okay, I can do this. Okay, what do I do next? Right? I mean, what do I want to be a good role model for my daughter? Okay, how can I do this? How can I show her that I'm strong? Even if I'm like struggling, how can I show her that I can do this? And I think that's really important that, you see the good stuff, right? And you practice gratitude. We do that, before dinner and before bed. What are we grateful for? Give me three good things about your day, because I know a lot of people are struggling, which I get that because it is really hard, but you can take away some of that struggle, and you have to know how. You have to know how, and get through it.
I think that's the part that you say. We, in so many other areas, we're like, oh, this is new. Let me learn from someone, or like let me. And with parenthood, motherhood, and single parent, you kind of feel like, well, I kind of had to figure it out alone. And my first thought was not, oh, let me go see how others are doing and let me learn from a master, or like, oh, it's a totally new situation, like getting a new job. Every time you get a new job, you have 3 months of someone training you, or like your feedback and say, oh, here's how we do it. This is the culture and blah, blah. And you don't intentionally say, oh, this is new. Like, let me, we had motherhood courses, we had birthing courses.
Yes.
We do not have a single mom course to say, oh, you're on a different path now. So this is where you need to be careful. This is what to do for mental health, for finances, for education. Oh, and you take that course and like, okay, wait a second. There is knowledge there, and I don't have to do it alone. I have so many people before me, and I can, go in a different way about this. So
right.
I think that also with your podcast as a resource to someone listening in and saying, wait, there are people before me who had similar challenges, it's never the same, but similar. How did they do it? Like, can I get something from there? And not think, or I was thinking when I was in Europe, like, well, of course they could, because they had more money, they had more family around, they had this, so this does not apply to me. So I was thinking like nothing applies to me because it's so a unique experience. But if you change this and say, okay, how does Kelly do it? Like, how is she thinking about this? How is she dealing with let me think, is there anything there that I can learn for myself too? Is there anything she's doing that maybe I can take and adjust it to my situation and make it better? So this learning.
Right. We can take bits and pieces from other people's stories, be like, oh, okay, well, I can try that today. I can try that, or I can look into that, where we wouldn't know. In a business class I took, and they said, when you don't know, how to do something, go to who. If you don't know how, who can help me, right? So I've gotten to the habit of saying, okay, who can help me do that? I mean, just, I think that's really good to look towards. So tell us, if you had one thing to tell single moms, what would you tell them?
Oh, that's so hard for me to choose. I think the most important is that you can reinvent your life as a single mom and make it and add more happiness and joy to it on your terms. And the more you do this on your terms part, the happier you'll feel, and the more thriving you will have. And this reinventing also has a part of letting go of everything you knew as a married person, or a coupled person, and say, wait, I'm a different species now, I'm a different path. So let me really invest more energy into looking how the solutions to find here than to look what I don't have, because I cannot fix that. So you cannot fix that part. So, as a technique, or I learned this also in therapy, they said, like, let me have 1 hour of really being so sad and write down that pisses me off and it's so sad for me and my kids, and I wouldn't wish this on anyone. And then after that hour, said, okay, tomorrow I have another hour, but now let me see now what, and invest my energy and my time and my mindset in finding solution, doing self-care, getting, mentoring and elevating what is and not what could have been. So I think that was a good technique that helped me not push my grief away, but to say I always have this container for my wrath, grief, annoyance, sadness, and say, every day I have this container, but not the whole day and not the whole night.
Yeah. You kind of get comfortable. Okay, this is how it is, but you can move forward. You don't get stuck there.
It's this and that. So it's not this, but so this is the toxic part when they say, yeah, but look at the bright side. I don't want to say you're a single mom, but look at the bright side. I want to say you're a single mom. This is hard, and let's look for some solutions that can make it a better journey for you. It is, and it is this. So
that's beautiful. That's a great way of looking at it. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on our show today and sharing with us.
Thank you.
I know a lot of single moms will learn from your experience as well.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. We want to thank you. We want to thank you for tuning in. And remember, every Thursday there's a new podcast episode, so don't miss it. We would love to stay connected. Please check us out at myhappyplaceforlife.com. And while you're there, click on the services tab to see what awesome coaching we have. It's our mission to give single moms a shortcut to the life they want after divorce. You don't have to do it alone. We are here to be your guide. You can also check out our free training on our Facebook group, Happy Life 101 for single parents. And if you'd like to follow us on Instagram, that's My Happy Place for Life, the number 4. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And remember, you're smart, you're beautiful, and you got this.